The Viking and Odin's Tentacles. The Viking era was filled with many battles and conquests, troops with immense courage navigating unknown seas in search of new territories and riches for centuries. The vessels sailed ruthlessly, leaving a trail of stories and wars wherever they went. However, there was an area off certain territories where their ships faced an unknown and deadly force. Erik, a brave Viking leader, decided to unravel the mystery that haunted his people. He led countless expeditions to this cursed area, but all his efforts were in vain. The boats were engulfed and destroyed by inexplicably intense waves. Intrigued and determined, he resolved to face the challenge in a way no other warrior had dared. He took a small vessel and headed to the area where such actions occurred. Diving into treacherous waters, he realized that the answer to the mystery lay many meters below the surface. Without hesitation, he took a deep breath and decided to approach, diving into the sea currents to investigate more closely. To his surprise, a powerful blinding light engulfed him and he was consumed and sucked into the depths of the sea. He found himself in a completely different reality. Suddenly, he found himself rapidly on a hallucinatory journey, being sucked into the void, ending up in an unknown environment. He thought he might have died and encountered his god Odin, for the translucent and wholly different visual referred to something fantastic, inexplicable, and yet wonderful. He was in a base he didn't even know what it really was, surrounded by advanced machines and unknown beings. Still dazed, he watched in amazement the production and recycling of Earth's natural resources. Freshwater, gemstones, and metals were created and renewed there. Erik understood that the base was hidden beneath the waters and used Earth's resources for its unknown purposes. The message was clear. That territory already belonged to those unknown and mysterious beings. He also believed it to be some deity, perhaps his god Odin. Therefore, the Vikings should respect the imposed limits. A being that seemed to be the supreme leader explained that this was a new dimension, that he had exceeded the limits through a passage between time and space. Erik believed that this leader was a monster that had never been seen or mentioned in their sagas and mythologies. It looked like a colossal octopus with sinuous tentacles that stretched across the area. Its body emitted a strange and mysterious aura, and it seemed to be exploring the hidden natural riches beneath the sea. The being explained through telepathy that these wars would always be a constant problem for all centuries on planet Earth, in the present and even in the future, where technological development would endanger the planet's very life, which would be at risk of total destruction through extremely powerful weapons. Erik would never understand what that would mean in the future, what weapons those would be, and what would be the determining purposes for larger wars among peoples. In summary, the being determined that wars should cease, and all humans should enjoy the planet's riches but have the wisdom to put back all the extracted material, plant in the present to harvest in a glorious future. Finally, a last message would be shared after Erik returned to his reality. He would understand and know what to do automatically. However, before he could fully understand the situation, the environment began to dissipate. The translucent images were disappearing, and after total white, Erik found himself on his boat. Strangely, he lay on the surface on his Viking vessel. All that remained was to ponder what had happened and the message that would be given. At the same time, he thought he had fallen asleep and had a dream. He was very confused. However, one thing was certain. In his thoughts, somehow he should stop the invasions and determine the end of the battles. Ceasing war would avoid further deaths. He realized that that encounter was not a punishment but a plea for peace and understanding. The wisdom of the gods was beyond what he could understand, and what he had witnessed was a powerful reminder that violence and greed were not the way forward. Afraid, he finally understood it was a message from the Norse gods. Odin, his supreme god, was speaking to him through this experience. Guided by this new understanding, Erik communicated to the crew that it was time to give up the attack. Odin's message was clear. The search for lands and riches did not justify conflict and death among peoples. And what would be the determining sign that Erik was right? The divine message would be shown to the Viking shortly after this action of not warring anymore. As he began to sail and return to his lands, inexplicably, a huge light appeared below the sea. A powerful illuminated field appeared in a circular form in an imposing spectacle. It looked like a city under the waters. There he understood that he had not dreamed. The fantastic experience had resulted positively, and Erik thus had the answer from the unknown beings, which in his understanding were Odin's voices. The last images he saw were the very strong lights rising towards the sky. They began to flicker and finally went out. It was a huge base that was disappearing. Its intense light was becoming blurry under the sea and went out. Odin's message had been given. The Viking then sought to lead his people without invasions and explorations. Wars and endless battles were annulled. There would be no more death and destruction. From now on, a path to an era of mutual understanding and respect among all opened up, a wisdom that would go beyond borders. Another thing that Erik also determined from what happened was that from now on fishermen should never fish octopuses, as he believed they were direct messengers of Odin and should be spared as a sign of gratitude to the Norse gods. Many were apprehensive about such action and asked why that and the relationship with Odin, their supreme god.
They are the creatures beneath the sea watching us so that there are no more wars. They will monitor all our movements to see if we are following Odin's orders. They look too much like him. I'm sure they are his guardians. The similarities are incredible. My people, believe me, Odin had huge tentacles.